In Greece, the sea is our lifeblood. In this episode, I'll be traveling to Lavrio to visit the Veletakos family taverna, whose owner has been fishing in local waters for more than 60 years.
Φαίνεται τέλεια.
I'll feast on a real Greek fisherman soup called Kakavia. In the kitchen, I'll make a classic seafood kritharoto, the famed Greek dip taramosalata, and an elegant fish a la Spetsiota. Join me on my Greek table as I dive into the delicious love affair between Greek cuisine and the sea. If you deconstruct Greece, you will in the end see an olive tree, a grapevine, and a boat remain. That is with as much you reconstruct her. So wrote the Nobel Prize-winning Greek poet Odysseus Elitis. Greece, with its 8,500 miles of coastline and countless islands, has always been a nation of seafarers and fishermen. The sea and all the traditions that rely on it are changing, no doubt. With every passing day, this ancient way of life is under threat. My guess is that there will always be a supply of romantic souls who turn to the sea for their livelihood, solace, and the undying sense of adventure this way of life provides. Such is the Greek connection to the sea that most people have it in their DNA to know their fish. They know how to check for freshness by examining the sheen in the eyes of a whole fish, the color under the gills, the firmness and resilience of the flesh. Indeed, in the simplicity of this country's seafood cuisine is the whole philosophy of the Greek kitchen. Fresh ingredients prepared with a minimal of intervention. The sea's bounty might not be what it was even a decade ago, but the romance of the water and all its gifts will always be a part of the Greek psyche. I'm heading to Lavrio, an ancient port and mining town. Lavrio is about 60 kilometers southeast of the Greek capital. It's an unromantic place with a few romantic souls who faithfully uphold the oldest traditions of the sea. My ride is Dimitris Veletakos, who runs his parents' taverna, but to the chagrin of the boss, his dad, Yannis, he likes to keep his feet planted on the ground, well almost, on two fast wheels, which he's used to see the whole world. His father, Yannis, is a traditional Greek fisherman who, at the age of 81, still goes out in his small fishing boat to bring in the day's catch. And his mother, Despina, cooks it all up, making some of the most authentic traditional Greek seafood recipes anywhere to be found near Athens. Once in a while, Dad lends a hand too.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ, Δημήτρη. That was fun. So now, Dimitri, we're going to find your dad, right? Who's going to make us the kakavia.
Kakavia, traditional kakavia, the traditional way.
With all the fish that he caught in the morning.
With the first sun.
Αυτά είναι τα ψάρια, τα πρωινά.
Λοιπόν, αυτά είναι ψάρια πρωινά, τα οποία είναι κατάλληλα για την ψαράδικη κακαβιά. Κοιτάτε να δείτε. Καταρχήν βάζουμε το σέλινο.
Α, οκ. Ολόκληρο.
Κομμάτια, αυτό θα λιώσει. Βάζουμε τα κρεμμύδια. Κόβουμε τις πατάτες τώρα.
Καροτάκι.
Εδώ βάζουμε το αλάτι της γης. Μετά βάζουμε πιπεράκι. Και το βάζουμε το λάδι
Α, υπάρχει αυτό, βέβαια.
Τώρα μπαίνει το νερό και μπαίνει...
Είναι πολλοί τρόποι να ψαρεύει κανείς.
Ναι.
Εσείς πώς ψαρεύετε, δηλαδή...
Εγώ ψάρευα πάντοτε με δίχτυα και με παραγάδια.
Το ψάραμα με το παραγάδι είναι καλός τρόπος.
Παραγάδι είναι το πιο αγνό επάγγελμα μες στη θάλασσα.
It's long, right? It's what,
Yes, about 250 hooks,
And that goes for how many kilometers?
about 3 kilometers.
But the hooks float, so they're not... You're not picking things off the bottom of the sea.
hooks, you can imagine about 250, maybe you catch 4 fish, 3 fish.
Πόσες μέρες της ζωής σας έχετε περάσει στη θάλασσα?
Από το 1960 μέχρι και σήμερα είχα δεύτερο επάγγελμα. Δηλαδή δούλευα στα μεταλλεία και το μεσημέρι έπαιρνα το σκάφος και πήγαινα και δούλευα στη θάλασσα.
Εγώ είμαι από νησί και οι μισοί άνδρες ήταν και ακόμα είναι ναυτικοί. Και όλοι λένε ότι η θάλασσα είναι έρωτας, δηλαδή...
Αυτό να το έχετε υπόψη σας.
Η θάλασσα τι είναι, η ελευθερία, είναι αυτή η αίσθηση.
Κοιτάτε, για μένα, αν μου λέγανε διάλεξε 2 πράγματα στη ζωή σου, τη θάλασσα ή τη γυναίκα σου, θα έλεγα τη θάλασσα.
Το σβήστο μην το δει, μαμά, γιατί την έβαλε στο βράδυ.
The fish with the firmest flesh goes in first.
Να μυρίσει πιο όμορφα η κακαβιά πριν με τον κάβουρα. Ναι.
So fresh cod. So he's putting the fish with what he calls the more sensitive flesh, the softer flesh.
Να βάλουμε λίγο νεράκι ακόμα.
That goes on top.
Ε?
The vegetables and the firmer fleshed fish boiled for about 20 minutes. A little more water. And how long does this take now?
15 minutes more.
So another 10-15 minutes.
Ότι το πιο αγαθό έχει δώσει ο Θεός στον άνθρωπο είναι η θάλασσα. Καταρχήν είναι αυτή η άβρα της θάλασσας, το οξυγόνο το οποίο σου δίνει, το ιώδιο αυτό που έχει αναπνέει, σε κάνει άλλον άνθρωπο.
Αυτό το καταλαβαίνω, το νιώθω κι εγώ.
Είναι 60 χρόνια στη θάλασσα τώρα. Είναι τρόπο ζωής αυτό πια.
Αυτό το φτερό από το πλάι του ψαριού. Να το. Έφυγε αμέσως. Όταν ξεκολλάει αμέσως είναι έτοιμο.
Είναι έτοιμο. Okay. I'm making one of my all-time favorite Greek seafood recipes. It's called kritharoto. Think of a seafood risotto, but instead of rice, I'm using what we call in Greek kritharaki, orzo. I've got my onions sautéing. I'm just gonna add a little bit of garlic to that. In this recipe, the seafood that I like to use most are mussels and squid. The next thing I'm going to do is steam my mussels. I do that by cooking them with a glass of white wine and a clove of garlic for flavor over fairly high heat. The next thing that goes in here, kritharaki, orzo. This might seem a bit unusual to be adding pasta to a pot that has no water in it. It will in a bit, it'll have some liquid. But I like to stir my orzo around. I like it to get a little bit golden. And doing this brings out this incredible nuttiness in the pasta. It makes it really flavorful. You can add plain water to this, but you could also add either fish or vegetable broth. Get a good stir on that. Now this is gonna cook down. It'll become really creamy. In addition to my broth, the real flavor in here comes from something you may not even know Greece produces. Krokos, kozarnis, also known as saffron. I like to soak my saffron, my krokos, in a little bit of water. That helps release all the beautiful aroma and the color, of course. What is happening with these mussels? They look great, and it looks like almost all of them have opened. The ones that don't open, you want to discard. I'm gonna get this juice strained right here, and what I've done here is line a medium-sized colander with a coffee filter. The mussels often have some debris, and you just want to filter all of that out. Now, you know this gorgeous mussel juice is going right into my kritharoto. While that continues to cook, I'm just gonna get my zucchini and my squid ready. The calamari is clean, the quill is out, and all I'm gonna do is basically cut this into pretty thick rings. This will shrink a lot once it hits the frying pan. A little bit of extra virgin Greek olive oil right into my pan. I like to cook these first before adding them to the orzo. I want them to retain a little bit of their crunchiness, and cooking them in the olive oil brings out all those beautiful herbaceous flavors in the zucchini. The squid goes in next. This is ready to go into my orzo. All those great pan juices. The mussels go in next. Mussels have been cultivated in Greece since antiquity, something that the Greeks perfected as a technique and as a way to always have a consistent supply of one of the world's most favorite seafood. A little bit of black pepper, a dab of butter. Okay, this is beautiful. This will also absorb even more of the juices as it cools down a little bit. Adding my favorite cheese, kefalotiri, ready and willing to try this. It smells really good. I want to get a little bit of everything on my plate. Look at that, it looks so luscious. It looks really good. I'm getting all that beautiful, sort of like inky earthiness from the squid, that wonderful sea flavor that mussels have. It's literally like chewing the sea. Zucchini adds this nice fresh note to it, and I can't think of anything better to drink with this than a glass of classic Greek white wine. Moschofilero comes from the Mandinia region in the Peloponnesos, and it's really nice and aromatic, and it goes beautifully with this rich, krokos-infused kritharoto, isigian.
The Kakavia is ready to serve. The first thing Captain Yanis does is pour off the fish broth, which is infused with all the great flavor of so many different fish. The fish is always served separately, and so are the vegetables. A typical Kakavia is really 3 courses in one pot. Olive oil gives the boiled fish a softer, more palatable texture. The broth is so rich and complex. I can really smell its intense aroma, so full of the sea.
Πάρε και πατατούλα πρώτα να δοκιμάσεις, να δεις.
Κάτσε να τη φάω έτσι.
Όλη την οστιμιά από το ψάρι την παίρνει η πατάτα.
Oh, it is out of this world.
Πραγματικά πολύ ωραία.
Αυτό το ζουμί λέγανε οι παλιοί, είναι τόσο αυτό που λέει αυτό το ζουμί και νεκρούς ανασταίνει.
I'm making taramosalata today. That is one of the classic Greek dips. It's made with fish roe, which is called tarama, and always calls for a starchy base, either bread or potato. I prefer potato, it makes it a lot more fluffy. You just want to cube the potatoes. I cube into like 1.5 inch cubes. I want them to cook as fast as possible, basically. These are going right into the cold water. Adding a little bit of salt to get some good flavor on the potatoes. And as soon as this comes to a boil, I'm gonna let them simmer for about 15 minutes or so until they're nice and soft. The potatoes are cooked, and you want to get them nice and hot right into the bowl of the mixer. A few at a time. This is tarama, fish roe, from either cod or carp or sometimes mullet. You want to add this right into your potatoes. I'm going to pulse these together just to mix them and then start adding my olive oil and lemon juice. The reason I pulse instead of let it work continuously is because I don't want my potatoes to become too gummy. Now it's time to start adding the olive oil and lemon juice. The whole secret to this dish is that it's an emulsion. We're marrying fat and acid. That's the basis of any emulsion. I'm gonna pulse as I do that. Right after the olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice goes in here. Lemon juice is always added when you make taramosalata because it cuts through the richness of the fish roe. It brings nice balance to the whole plate. A little bit more olive oil. A little more lemon juice. And a little bit of that nice starchy potato water. Oh yeah, that's what you want. This looks excellent. That's exactly the consistency we're looking for. This is more or less the classic, basic recipe. I'm adding a little bit of my own twist to it. Some chopped dill, which goes really nicely with lemon. It goes really nicely with anything even remotely fish-related. So just a little bit of chopped dill in here. And another little twist, some pink peppercorns. Looks perfect. Ready to serve. Taramosalata is one of the 3 classic Greek dips you find in every Greek restaurant. Taramosalata, tzatziki, and that roasted eggplant dip. Get a little Kalamata olive on here, just for garnish. And for a little more color, just a couple of these beautiful pink peppercorns. Time to taste this classic dip. It's a good thing when you like your own food. This is so lemony, it is so rich, it's perfectly balanced, and on top of that, it's one of the healthiest things you can eat. It's really a Greek superfood, packed with vitamins, packed with omega fatty acid, and delicious to boot. Wow, I want more. I'm making one of the absolute classic Greek fish dishes. It's also one of the easiest. It's called psari, fish, a la Spetsiota, named after the island of Spetses, just about an hour-and-a-half south of Athens in the Saronic Gulf, and this dish comes from that island. The first thing I'm going to do is make my topping. I have diced fresh tomato that I've actually peeled and seeded, a fair amount of garlic, parsley, a little bit of sea salt. Even though Spetses is an island, it's actually quite different from most other Greek islands. For one, there are no cars. It's also a really cosmopolitan place. Spetses these days is an island that attracts the yachting set. This dish, although it's very simple, it does have a certain elegance and a certain sophistication to it. I'm now going to add a little white wine. I want to oil up my pan a little bit, just a little bit of olive oil. I'm using really easy to cook filet of sole today. You can make this with almost any nice flaky fish. Cod, haddock. Just a little bit of salt to flavor up my very, very mild fillet of sole. A little bit of pepper. I'm spooning my tomato topping right over the fillet of sole. I'm basically gonna fill my pan with this. You can see how fresh and simple, but also how elegant it is. Get some of that beautiful juice in here. And breadcrumbs all over the top, which both help absorb the juices, but also give the dish a beautiful crunchy finish when it comes out of the oven. Just a little bit of olive oil right over the top. This is ready to bake. I'm gonna put it in the oven at 350 for around 10 to 12 minutes. Just gonna garnish this a little bit. I'm really looking forward to tasting one of the true classics in Greek fish cuisine. I'm gonna cut through this carefully. The fish is really delicate. Just a little bit more olive oil right over the top, and a little bit on the plate. Nothing goes better with an island fish dish than an island wine. And I like to serve Santorini Assyrtiko with my fish alla Spetsiota. That is so fresh and simple. It's so elegant. This dish, the alla Spetsiota, to me just personifies really what fish cooking in Greece is all about. It's about maintaining the integrity of the fish, respecting the sea, respecting what you're eating, choosing fish that's in season and that's sustainable, and preparing it simply because it's always really fresh. Ποιο ψαράκι?
Το ψαράκι, λοιπόν.
Τι είναι, μπακαλιαράκι?
Αυτός είναι μπακαλιάρος.
Πολύ είναι. Πολύ.
Δεν πειράζει, είναι φρούτο. Θα πάρεις το μισό.
Ωραίο, πω.
We are enjoying more than a simple, delicious meal at a small family taverna in yet another port town of Greece. I am literally tasting tradition, not only in the food, but in the way of life that's in evidence here. And of course, in the endurance against the odds of a profession that is the essence of Greece.
Παιδιά, ησυχία. Ο Θεός το καλό.
Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ.
Πάρεις μετά με το χέρι το κεφάλι και θα το φας, θα τρως λίγο τι ψαχνό βρίσκεις. Το κόκαλο το βγάζεις, γιατί όλη η αξία του ψαριού είναι εδώ.
There's a kind of a rule of thumb that fish and the ladies both need hands to enjoy.
Το αρκά βάζει χέρι μόνο στο ψάρι.
But nowadays, he only uses his hands for fish.
Σ' ακούσει ένα τραγούδι που λέει «Με βρήκε άσχημη στιγμή».